Hello, my name is Tom Gorham, and I'm going to talk to you about creating an inclusive environment that supports diversity in online programs. The field of online learning is huge and steadily growing. In the United States, in 2006, there were approximately 3.5 million online learners, and that figure was increasing by nearly 10% each year. And with this spread of online learning, more and more heterogeneous groups of learners have the ability to come together. Now, the point of education should be to give every learner the means, motivation, and opportunity to achieve the stated learning goals. In this spirit, I'd like to talk about some of the benefits and challenges that this diversity brings to online learning, and also about some of the ways to create an inclusive environment that positively supports this diversity. Now, what do we mean when we talk about diversity? There are many ways that individual learners can differ from one another. There are many types of what I'll refer to as social diversity. This includes age, race, religion, culture, gender, sexual preference, ethnicity, and socioeconomic background. Learners also differ in their preferred learning styles. Some people are visual, verbal, auditory, or kinesthetic learners. Learners can also be field independent or field dependent. All of these factors influence how they approach and interact with the educational materials. Finally, even if two learners were perfectly identical twins, if they lived far enough away from one another, they would experience geographical diversity, meaning that they might live in different time zones or in countries that celebrate different religious and national holidays. This can have a huge effect on scheduling online interactions. There are some potential challenges that may arise in diverse online communities. When people communicate, they often hold many assumptions and expectations. And as Hahn says, it is when individuals are unaware of or disregard the significant differences in expectations regarding these relationships that problems arise. For example, as Kahn mentions, there are a number of cultural differences that, if unaddressed, either intentionally or unintentionally, can lead to confusion, frustration, or friction in the learning community. One example Kahn cites is that using a red flag as an indication of warning may not work with Chinese students because red is considered to be a lucky color in Chinese culture. Furthermore, jokes, pictographic iconography, such as the common sign for an emergency exit, cultural references to things such as well-known movies or stories, and topics such as certain foods and drinks may come across as being confusing, culturally insensitive, or even hostile to people of other cultures. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, difference in time zones and national and religious holidays can hinder the scheduling of group work, and regular synchronous meetings may be downright impossible. There are many ways that we can work to overcome these challenges that online diversity poses. One is to have a clear, strongly worded public non-discrimination policy. For example, Global Campuses policy specifically protects people based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, ancestry, age, marital status, disability, sexual orientation, including gender identity, unfavorable discharge from the military, or status as a protected veteran. This may help to prevent any intentional friction or problems, but there is still the possibility for unintentional cultural misunderstandings. To address this, it is important to give online learners a clear netiquette guidelines. This can deal with issues such as humor online, how to avoid misunderstandings, and how to remedy them when they occur. As instructional designers, if we know that our learners will be socially diverse, it may be possible for us to use minority representatives to locate offensive or insensitive course materials through beta testing. Finally, in regards to geographically diverse students, synchronous communication may be difficult or impossible. We must provide asynchronous options, such as archiving synchronous sessions for viewing at a later time. If we are successful in fostering an inclusive environment that supports online diversity, there are many benefits that can be reaped. For example, some frustrated researchers, such as Professor Kali Tao of the University of Arizona, decry what she calls the default whiteness of cyberspace. In other words, many people will assume that most of the people that they meet online are Caucasian. However, as the University of Illinois' Professor Steve Jones notes, the internet is becoming a more visual medium through webcams and video conferences. These advances in technology, combined with an inclusive environment, can help people feel more comfortable about expressing and sharing who they are. A 1985 study performed by Durant and Taggart found that including older mid-career students in a face-to-face class with younger pre-career students had a detrimental effect on the younger students' performance. perhaps because they were intimidated by their more experienced classmates. Interestingly, however, in an online course, both groups found that a mix of students was beneficial. Sanchez and Ganawardena found that different ethnic groups have different learning styles. For example, non-Western students tend to prefer collaborative learning projects, and several scholars argue that there are learning style differences between African American and Caucasian students, the former being more field-dependent and the latter being more field-independent. What is interesting is that Treisman suggests that the achievement gap that many African American students suffer could be overcome by adopting the study group strategies of Asian populations, something that could definitely happen in a successfully diverse online course. This type of online community building is epitomized by the partnership between predominantly white Central Michigan University and primarily black University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Their Building Community Through Technology program allows a cultural exchange that would otherwise be impossible at their homogeneous institutions. Finally, this may seem counterintuitive, but diversity does not always mean mixing several groups together. Sometimes recognizing and respecting the differences between groups can lead to successful educational environments. For example, the Salish Kootenai program brought an online college education to Native Americans living on a reservation that adhered to a philosophy closely connected to traditional tribal values. This specialized program that understands and respects diversity fosters a sense of community while helping to halt migration from the reservation. In conclusion, there are many challenges that are inherent in bringing together diverse learners, but they are surmountable. And if dealt with properly, online programs can become even more effective at giving every learner the means, motivation, and opportunity to achieve the stated learning goals.